Hello, everyone. As you notice, I don't have a British accent. I have a very St. Louis accent. I flew in from Los Angeles yesterday, and now I'm here in London for the first time. And of course, it's raining. And it's gonna rain tomorrow, and it's gonna rain some more. But I wanted to thank Kisharon for having me. I want to thank Bev for introducing me to your organization. And I just wanted to talk to you about the end product of all the work that you guys do. As you can see, I'm a person with a disability. And yes, it's really hard being this sexy all the time, but I'll take that burden. And so, as a person with a disability, there are agencies that come across your life that can either help or hinder. And so, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how I came to be. Well, not that part, the other part. And so, my mother and I are from St. Louis, Missouri. I was born in the 60s. So anybody here from the last millennia, y'all know what the 60s were like. It was really good, really, really good. But being born, they told her that I would never talk, that I would never speak well, and that I would never walk, and that she should put me somewhere just to be hidden. And my grandmother and my mama and my aunties just kind of was like, hell no, we're gonna keep him in the house so he can be bad just like the rest of the kids. So growing up, they would say stuff like, oh, isn't it nice that he's outside with his friends? Well, isn't that what kids are supposed to do? How many of you have kids, right? If you keep them in the house, how much do you want them to be out of the house? It's like, I love you, but go play. So, right? And as I grew up, my mother would say things like, go outside. And I would go outside and I would play, but there would be organizations that she would put me involved with. So in the 60s and the 70s, inclusive education was not really that thing. I was the first child with a disability to be included in my entire school. So every day was a very, very interesting day. Me and the principal got to know each other really well. My mother had her own parking spot right next to his. And the teachers knew my name very explicitly. I don't know if that counts, but they would say things like, oh, that's so nice that the little crippled boy wants to learn. And they would look at me and I'd look at them and say, oh, it's so nice that you're stupid enough to have the job, but hey, you know, what do you do? But the point was, they would project my limitations on me. They would say things like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And they said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, rich. Like, exceedingly obnoxiously rich. And they, oh, that's so sweet, right? And then, so as I went on in the school, there was one time as I went through high school, as I went through junior high, they had us in what they call in America substantially segregated classrooms. So I was never in the class with regular kids until I was like 10. And then, so if you imagine your kids in a regular class, in a classroom that's only disabled kids, you become that class, where people would walk by and point at you like you were in a fishbowl. And you know, it's really hard to try to pick out a young lady and, hey, how you doing? If you're in a fishbowl, right? But that's what we did. We never identified ourselves as having disabilities. I mean, yes, we knew it, we understood it, but it was just like waking up with long hair. Clearly, I don't have that problem. But it was those kind of things, and we would sit there and we would laugh and we would joke. We were teenagers. We were kids. Everybody else had a problem with who we were. They would say things like, oh, you should just be happy that you're in school. No, because if I'm happy in school, then I'm crazy. I'm 16, I'm looking for a girl that I can go chase. Because that's what happens when you're 16. Here's the other thing that, for parents of children with disabilities, puberty doesn't care about disabilities. It does not care. What it cares about is that your child is human. What you need to know is that tonight is not just about services. It's about the end product. It's about the quality of life that they have when you're gone. Unless you're immortal, your child needs to have the tools to live a beautiful, healthy life, just like you all do. That's the goal of services. And so to give you that example, just to tell you, I was in high school, my senior year, and I went back to the school, and my teacher was like, so we have this thing in the United States called an SAT, where it's the test you take to see where you go to college. And she sat there, and she came to me with that sticky, sweet voice. Hi, Keith. How are you? I was like, what? We have your SAT scores. And I think you did really well. And that's always the setup. They tell you how good you're doing, then they try to knock you out, right? She said, oh, but your English is not well. We think you should come back for another year. I said, listen, I can spell. I spell butter just correctly. B-U-T-T-A-H, butter. This is how it works, I'm good. And then she's sitting there, she's like, no, and I'm thinking to myself, who decides to come back in their last year of high school to come back for another year? Did you want to go back to school for another year? No. So I'm sitting there and I look at her and I say, you know, that's nice. I point to my bag. And in my bag I said, can you grab this letter? And she's like, I really want you to think about it. Just really, really, really. Now, I kind of chuckled because in America you can stay in school until you're 22. Now at 21 you can drink. Now I told him, I said, now if I stay in school to 22, I'm coming in drunk every day. And ain't nothing you can say about it because I'm 21 and I like to drink. So she looks at the letter and she says, oh, this is so. It was my college acceptance letter that I had gotten on the spot the weekend before. She didn't believe that anybody could go to college. This is a teacher. But what was so surprising was that for my friends, they all of a sudden knew that they could go to school, that they could go to college, that they could go and have keggers and find themselves laying on the floor not wondering how they got there. See, that's what I did in college. Shh. But the reality was is that we had that life. And they kept looking at me as if I was an anomaly. Because having a disability was supposed to stop me from having a life. It's supposed to stop me from being able to go to college. It's supposed to stop me from going to a club and hanging with my friends and going out to bars and doing inappropriate things that I'll have to explain to my children much later in life. It was supposed to stop all of that, but it doesn't. And that's why what you're doing here tonight is more than just supporting an organization. It's more than just sending somebody to a work. Why do you go to work? You go to work to get money. Why do you get money? So you can do things you want to do. That's the goal. I mean, if you want to give me some money, that's cool. I'll be over there chilling. But that's the goal. The goal has always been is to see your child as your child. For parents who give birth to children with disabilities, you didn't give birth to a disability, you gave birth to a child. You give birth to a child who gets on your last good nerve. I got 7 of them. And oh, they get on my nerves. That's when the disability becomes an advantage. Because you twitch and you hit them like, what happened? Oh, it's cerebral palsy, cerebral palsy. They're like, it works all the time. But that's why you do it. And so as I grew up, you know, I thought about it. I said, why is this so complicated for people to not just see me as a human with wants, needs, hopes, and desires? That really is just it. That's why you have an organization such as yourself. It's not about the disability or the special needs. It's about the humanity. So on the flight over here, it was a 10-hour flight. 10-hour flight. I mean, that was a long 10-hour flight. Although they did feed me twice, actually. And there was a young lady sitting next to me. She was coming back to London for the first time in 38 years. And she was so nice. Do you need any help? Let me help you. Okay, yeah. You know, and I got all suave. Put on my Barry White voice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Gave her a wink and she helped out and all that good stuff. And the flight attendant was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you. And at the end of the flight, they gave her $200 credit and 10,000 miles for helping me. I'm like, wait a damn minute, where the hell is my $200? And I'm sitting there laughing to myself like, wait, if I wasn't disabled, would she have still gotten that $200? I had to think about it for a second. But why did they do that? Because the person was like, oh my God, it's so amazing. You're traveling by yourself? Like, is that a miracle or something? Yes, no. Like, I went to go get coffee yesterday, and just coffee. They're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. This freaking coffee, man. Like, I didn't walk across the water. I didn't turn water to wine. I didn't multiply fish. I just got coffee. You know, I didn't end world hunger. I didn't stop war. It's coffee. And if I don't get it, I'm gonna cuss you out to get my coffee. But the goal was to be seen as a human. Nothing more. Well, maybe a sexy black man, but maybe that comes with the package. But that's why it's important to do things like have inclusive education. Because then when you go to a prom, you're not the special kid at the prom. That's why you have inclusive education and inclusive employment, because when you go to work, you're not Johnny, the cool guy who greets you at the door. You're an employee. Regular is good. Now, not everybody can have regular, but they can have their own version of regular. They don't have to have special placement. They just have to have a place. It doesn't have to be built separate and apart. It should be included. Now, I'll just tell you a funny story. Well, I think it's funny because I have a sick sense of humor. But as I'm rolling, I had an electric wheelchair. I say had because I travel a lot. And if you've ever traveled with your luggage, you know what happened to the wheelchair. So I'm rolling through, I'm singing Michael Jackson. Do you remember? Singing, and this guy says, hey, do you believe in God? And I pause for a second, because I hear my grandmother in the back of my head saying, baby, if anybody wants to pray for you, you let them pray. Fine. So he starts praying. Dear Lord, please forgive this man's mother for whatever drug she's done to cause his body like this. So I start praying. Dear Lord, please hold me from beating his ass for talking about my mama. But it was that kind of, like, but why did he do it? Like, if you're a person of faith and God doesn't make any mistakes, then the way I am is the way I should be. And the way I am and the way I should be included in your life. Just as your son, as your daughter, as your friends, as your lovers, as your partners. And it seemed so amazing to them that I had done that. And as he prayed, he said something, and I jumped up out of the wheelchair. I ran across the wheelchair like this, and I ran back, and I sat down. And he looked at the book and was like, oh my God, it works. Now, I could only imagine the next person in the wheelchair that he ran into that didn't work. It's like, it worked on the last guy. I was like, dang, black and sexy, dog. You know. But that's the goal. The goal is to do the work so that everything can be regular. So that when they grow up or when they go to work, they can catch the tube, they can catch the bus, they can sit next to their person that gets on their nerves, they can go home and watch the telly and have a life. That's what we all wanted. That's what we all deserve. That's what we all need, and that's what we want. And before I leave you, I'm going to tell you one last, oh my goodness, I'm trying to woosah, because not everybody's crazy, at least until you get in the wheelchair. So I'm sitting outside. I used to smoke cigarettes. I quit. And I can see people trying to figure out how I lit the cigarette. I'm not going to take it unless you give me money. But so I'm sitting outside my office smoking a cigarette. I quit. I smoke a cigarette. And this guy walks by. Have you ever made eye contact with somebody you didn't want to make eye contact with? But you lock eyes with, oh. See, I'm from Missouri, so we give everybody a nod. How you doing? How you doing? So I'm thinking he goes on, and he turns around, he reaches in his pocket, he pulls out a $10 bill and tries to hand it to me. Like, I don't want your money, take the money. I don't want your money, take the money. I was arguing over taking money, so I took the money. It was lunchtime, I was hungry. So, but then I thought, why did he do that? He didn't do it for me. He did it for himself. Because what he saw was a person with a disability, and his instant connection was, a person with a disability needs help and is helpless and is utterly dependent upon me. Which is odd because I had a job. I was sitting underneath my office window. But I took his $10 anyway. So we go ahead a week. I'm sitting in the mall shopping. For those who love to shop, how many people love to shop? I love to shop. So I'm rolling around, I had my wheelchair and I had my bags on the back. Clearly, I had money, or at least I was a very well-dressed bag lady. And so I roll through the food court. I look and I make eye contact with the same person. Oh God, no, don't look. And he starts walking over and he reaches in his pocket and pulls out another $10. What the hell is wrong with you? I don't want your $10. Take the $10. I don't want the damn $10. I don't want the. Then I looked, and Panda Express was behind me, so I took the $10 and got a number 7. And this guy looked around, and I guess he saw us arguing, ran over, patted me on my head, and threw 85 cents in the wheelchair. I said, hold up, bro. Pity starts at $10. You about $9 short. And this is real life. And I chuckled at it, but I'm like, I would not have been able to deal with those situations if my parents had not given me the strength to be proud of who I am. If I didn't have an organization give me the skills, and my family to give me the skills to deal with people's inability to see my humanity. That's the importance of tonight. It's not just the services. It's being able to be proud of who you are, regardless of what your human condition is. Regardless of where you fall on the human continuum. It's the beauty of the light that you have within you that makes you who you are. Not the downs, not the intellectual disability, not the cerebral palsy. It's who you are. It's a part of you. And with that, I want to thank you all for having this American in London. Thank you.
So Keith Jones, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Jones.